Andarki namaskaramulu. Today is another good day that we are going to start a new topic and also a very important topic for Sanatana Dharma, that is Dharma Shastras. This topic is being taken by Dr. Sridhar ji and is Nithin Sridhar. I will introduce him to you. Though you know him, I think he has not taken your classes so far. So I will introduce him after we complete our initial formalities of paying our respects to our country by reciting Vande Mataram and then Prarthana. Let us request Chalachiti Babu Garu to recite Vande Mataram, please.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sufalam, Malayaj Sitalam, Sasya Syamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram. Subrajyosna pulakitayaminim pullakusumita drumadala shobhinim suhasinim sumadhura bhashinim sukhadam varadam mataram vande mataram. Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram. ధన్యవాదములండి చల్లా చిట్టిబాబు గారు. Thank you so much. Now, let us request Sudhir ji to do Prarthana, please.
Let us begin with a minute meditation. गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु। ॐ श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। गुरुरेव गति गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे। न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मां पाहि गुरो। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवम् उपास्महे। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्य अतिथिदेवो भव ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्
శ్రీ గురుభ్యో నమ హరి ఓం. ధన్యవాదములండి సుధీర్ గారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. ఓకే, నౌ I will briefly introduce our speaker, Nithin Sridhar ji. Namaste, Nithin ji.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah, welcome to the webinar session. And we have completed our initial paying respects to our country by reciting Vande Mataram and also doing Prarthana, chanted the Prarthana also. Now, I will introduce you to the participants. After that, I will hand over the platform to you. Okay. Nithin Sridhar ji is well known to Veda Samskruti Samiti. He has been taking classes for all the courses, especially the advanced courses. He is specialized, did a lot of work on Dharma Sastras. Nithin Sridhar ji has a degree in civil engineering. After working in the field of construction for some time, he has been writing and speaking on various subjects such as religion, spirituality, and culture. He has authored 7 books on various aspects of Hindu culture and practice. His first book, Musings on Hinduism, provided an overview of various aspects of Hindu philosophy. His book and general tenets of it covers the general tenets of ethics as available in Hindu texts. His latest book on Isha Upanishad, an English commentary, is an English translation and commentary on one of the prominent Hindu texts. However, his most widely read book is Menstruation Across Cultures, a historical perspective, which examines menstruation notions and practices prevailed in different cultures, religions, and across the world. His upcoming book, I think it must have been completed by now, is a
Yeah, it's
commentary.
out.
Sir?
Yes, it's already published the new
Yeah,
one.
Yeah. So what I have noted down is a little older version. So that book is also completed on Manusmriti. Yes. Last time also you told me that you have completed it. He is currently the director and chief curator of Center of Moksha Studies, Advaita Academy, dedicated to the dissemination of Advaita Vedanta Earlier, he served as editor of India Facts, a portal on Indian history and culture. He is based in Mysore, Karnataka. With this very brief introduction, let us request Nithin Sridhar to start the webinar, please.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Always very happy to speak in this forum. Let me begin with a prayer. Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swatha Namostute Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagini Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Shri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Bharati Karunapatram Bharati Padabhushanam Bharati Padamarudam Bharati Tirthamashraye Vidya Vinaya Sampannam Vitaragam Vivekinam Vande Vedanta Tattvagyam Vidushekara Bharati Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hare Om. Once again, thank you for the invitation. So today will be the first of the 3 classes I'll be taking to introduce the students to Dharma Shastras. So I can only introduce because the Dharma Shastra is like a vast forest, vast ocean, and it is not possible to go into very deep in merely 3 sessions. But what I will be doing is charting out fundamental ideas, fundamental foundational clarifications that are needed to even begin the journey into Dharma Shastras. So let me share my screen. I am seeing that sharing option is not there. Can you please activate that? Yeah, thank you. Is the full screen visible?
Yes,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes,
Okay.
it is visible.
Yeah, thank you. So, brief introduction to Dharma Shastra, and today we will especially look into the definition of Dharma itself. So now we have Dharma Shastra, Dharma and Shastra. So Dharma Shastra is a word can be broke into Dharma and Shastra. So Shastra is a again multifaceted word, but basically we can take it as any systematic presentation of a subject matter. Not merely a presentation subject matter, but a systematic presentation of a subject matter. A Shastra indicates a source of knowledge. A Shastra is like a textbook. Dharma Shastra means a textbook, a technical manual, or a body of knowledge which teaches Dharma. So the first question, of course, then is what is Dharma? And we will begin our inquiry with that. So in the Mimamsa Sutras, the Jaiminiya Mimamsa Sutra, the first sutra, it begins with Athato Dharma Jigyasa. We'll begin the inquiry into Dharma. Now we will begin the inquiry into Dharma. So in that same manner, we will start our introduction to Dharma Shastra with a comprehensive understanding of the very definition of Dharma. Now, there is no single English phrase which captures the complete meaning of Dharma, a comprehensive meaning of Dharma. But depending upon the context, Dharma has been translated as duty, ethics, law, justice, morality, righteousness, so on and so forth. None of them comprehensive, but they do capture a particular shade of what Dharma is. Now the question is, if we have to see Dharma itself, even the Sanskrit term Dharma, it has a different meaning. Even at the, there can be understanding of Dharma at an individual level. There can be understanding of Dharma at a social level. There can be understanding of Dharma at a cosmic level also. So the Vedic concept of Rita or cosmic order, Rita is Dharma only. Rita is Dharma at a cosmic level. Similarly, Satya is also Dharma at the Vachika level. There is a famous statement, I believe it is perhaps Adi Shankaracharya Bhagavad who mentioned, but the gist is simply this, that Dharma is Satya in action and Satya is Dharma in speech. So like this, in the context of an individual, for example, Dharma refers to one's actions. It could be Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, actions through the body, actions through speech, actions through mind. In the context of society, it would be social harmony, social well-being, the complete well-being of all the individuals of the society, all the communities of the society. In the context of governance, Dharma would become law and justice, the notion of dhanda, the punishment, the prevention of matsya, the rule of the might, all this to avoid all this, the rule of the might and such things. So all this becomes Dharma. In the cosmic context, I already mentioned about Rita. But beyond this cosmic or individual applications of what Dharma is, there should be a definition of Dharma that underlies all these contextual applications. What is that? And that is what we will study today. Now, if we have to start, especially in Samskrita, the etymological meaning has great value because each word that are in use has a particular etymology. And these etymological meaning are also philosophically significant often. So the very fundamental meaning of Dharma simply is Dharayati iti Dharma. Dhru Dharayati. To mean to bear, to support. So the root from which Dharma comes is Dhru Dharayati. It means to bear, to support. Therefore, Dharma is Dharayati iti Dharma. That which upholds, that which does the Dharana is Dharma. And this Dharana itself can be variously translated into English as that sustains something, that nurtures something, that which upholds something, that which stabilizes something. See, so many different shades of words can represent this term called dharana. So, for example, the bhumi, does the dharana of us, right? The bhumi nourishes us. She is the mother. She nourishes us. She sustains us. She provides us food. She provides us space to live. In Hindi, we say the धरती माँ हमको धारण करती है, right? Dharana is a very powerful word. From that only dharma comes. The root is dhru. Dhru dharayati. Dharayati iti dharma. So dharma is that which upholds, which sustains. So then the next logical question would be, what does dharma uphold? What does dharma sustain? So we find an answer to this in Mahabharata. Bhagavan Krishna in Karna Parva says, Dharanat dharmamityahu dharmo dharayati praja. Dharanat dharmamityahu, that is that which does the dharana, it is called as dharma. That phenomenon or that factor, that principle which does the dharana, that which does the sustaining, which causes upholding, that is called as dharma. And what does the dharma uphold or sustain? Dharmo dharayati praja. Praja is all beings of the universe. Praja here is not just in the sense of citizen. We at least in Kannada, we use praja as a term for citizen also, same in Sanskrita. But here the citizen is universal citizen, not of simply a human society, but of the cosmic society. All the animals, all the plants, all the livings in this planet, if there are life in any other planet, in any other universes, all the kind of beings, from the Devatas to the Gandharvas, the Kinnaras, the Apsaras to Rakshasas, Asuras, and humans, and every other kind of beings, all are upheld or sustained by Dharma. The idea is, here there is indication that Dharma is Ishvara himself. Because in the Taittiriya Upanishad, we have the statement, Yato va bhutani jayante, right? That, know that as Brahman, from which all these objects of the universe, the entire universe itself, manifested, it comes out, they are sustained, and they return back, right? So they are sustained is mentioned there also. So it is Ishvara who is the sustainer of all beings. So when we say Dharma sustains all beings, it is also indicating that Dharma is Ishvara himself. At a very subtle, at a very metaphysical level, Dharma is a special manifestation of Ishvara himself, whose purpose is to do dharana. So we see this very clearly in the Mahabharata, where one of the reasons for Bhagavan Krishna's avatara was to do dharana, was to help Bhumi Devi reduce her burden, right? We have a similar statement as Mahabharata in Mahanarayana Upanishad also. One of the very, very important Upanishads. There it says, Dharmo Vishwasya Jagataha Pratishtha Loke Dharmishtha Praja Upasarpanti Dharmena Papam Anudati Dharme Sarvam Pratishtitam Tasma dharmam paramam vadanti. Tasmat dharmam paramam vadanti. Therefore, dharma is considered the highest, parama. Why dharma is considered highest? It is because dharmo vishwasya jagatah pratishtha. It is the support of the whole universe, whole cosmos. It bears the whole cosmos. It establishes the whole cosmos. It facilitates the very existence of the whole cosmos. Then it says, all people draw near a person who is fully devoted to dharma. Just like bees goes to wherever they can get the honey, like that, people always automatically, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, they become attracted to those who practice dharma. And most importantly, dharmena papam anudati. Dharma is the one which removes papa, the karmic demerits. Everything, sarvam pratishtitam dharma, everything is established in dharma. All the universe is established in dharma. The very functioning of the universe is, the order is caused by dharma. So again, in the Upanishads, we have this, that the fire burns, the air blows, all because of fear of Brahman. So here, through this metaphor, what is indicated is that all the natural phenomenon function through, because of, is facilitated by Parabrahman. And as I mentioned, dharma is a special manifestation of Brahman itself. Therefore, dharma is highest. Right? So we now saw that dharma, the very term etymologically, it means that which upholds, that which sustains. What does dharma sustain? We saw from Mahabharata and Mahanarayana Upanishad that it sustains all beings. However, saying that dharma does the dharana, or it is the jagataha pratishta, it does the pratishta of the whole universe, it is not enough. We need to understand more specifically, what does this dharana imply? What does this doing pratishta imply? Especially in the context of an individual. It is fine to speak in the context of the cosmos to understand the larger vision, larger basis, larger foundation. But at the end of the day, the question remains, how does it apply to me? Or how does it useful to me? What does it mean in an individual context? Right? Otherwise, see now, even today, in a very Laukika example, there are hundreds of things happening in the world. But we are mostly not affected by it. Only a small section of the society may have some interest to study. For example, take theoretical physics. There are a lot of things there, but only a very small segment of theoretical physicists who study that. But most of us, there may be one or two curious people here or there. Most of us don't need to understand what is being told there, because it is not directly relevant to us in our day-to-day life. However, dharma is not like theoretical physics, because dharma, by definition, we are saying that it upholds everybody, everything, all objects in the universe, it sustains everything. So since I am also part of this universe, I am also part of this Srishti, therefore, I have to know, how is this dharma sustaining me? Or how can I sustain myself through dharma? Or what does this sustaining mean in the context of my individual life? So for this clarity, we have a wonderful definition in Vaisheshika Sutra, which says, Yato abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhihi sa Dharma. Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Siddhi Sa Dharma. There are two words, Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa. Siddhi means accomplishment. Sa Dharma. That is Dharma. What is Dharma? Dharma is that from which results the Siddhi of or the accomplishment of two things. What is this? One is Abhyudaya, the other is Nishreyasa. Abhyudaya, simply translated, can mean worldly happiness or worldly well-being, and Nishreyasa is the supreme good or moksha. Abhyudaya has some more Are you not able to see my text clearly?
Yeah, it is clear. There is something which has come just now, blocking the entire thing. And also at the left hand corner down below, there is similar sort of a block. If you can remove that.
But it is not from my side. I'll reshare it and let's see if
Right,
it is
right.
blocked. So, yeah.
Some people are seeing some blur in the presentation. So,
I am not
but
sure.
I am able to see it properly. No problem at all.
Okay. So let me try to share the presentation again.
Right. Yeah, again on the top there is some block. Yeah, now it's gone, and the left corner bottom.
I am not. I have done the full screen. Is it visible? The full screen now?
Yeah. It is visible. You can go ahead. No problem. Now you can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I'm changing the slides, so this is also visible, right?
Yeah, the change of slide is visible.
Okay. Okay. So, Dharma is the accomplishment of or from which results. Dharma is that from which results the accomplishment of Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa. So, Abhyudaya is material happiness or material well-being. And when I say the material well-being, I'm not just referring to the well-being in this world. So, namely the accomplishment of Artha Kama, the material happiness or material prosperity and fulfillment of our sensory pleasures. That is there, that is included in this Abhyudaya. But it also includes happiness in the next world, after the death of the body, the attainment of, say, Swarga or heaven. The Hindu notion of heaven, not the Christian one. So the Sukha and Swarga, happiness and heaven, and better next Janma, better next life, better life in a better situation in the next life. All these come under Abhyudaya. And then there is Moksha, which is Nishreyasa. So how does Dharma uphold an individual, sustain an individual? It sustains an individual by giving him, by facilitating his or her attainment of overall well-being. Overall well-being means both material well-being and spiritual well-being, both well-being in this world, well-being in the next world, also the attainment of highest well-being, namely moksha. So Dharma is the means to attain all of them. It is from Dharma, it is from the practice of Dharma which results the accomplishment of this Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa. The same idea is further elaborated in Parashara Madhava. So Parashara Madhava is basically a work of Swami Vidyaranya, who was the the Shankaracharya of Sringeri Sharada Peetham. He was also the cause, the source, inspiration for the Vijayanagara Empire. So, Vidyaranya, Swami Vidyaranya, also called as Madhavacharya, he has written a wonderful commentary on Parashara Smriti. Just like we have Manusmriti, Smritis are many, Dharma Shastras are many. Most prominent among them include Manusmriti, Parashara Smriti, Yagyavalkya Smriti, Narada Smriti, and many others. So Parashara is one very important Smriti, and the unique aspect of Parashara Smriti is it defines itself as a Smriti for the Kali Yuga, for the age we are living in. So on that there is a wonderful commentary by Swami Vidyaranya. There, in the Parashara Smriti itself, Dharma is defined as, it is called as Hitam, or that which is beneficial. So, Swami Vidyaranya, while explaining this, he says, Dharma is called as Hitam. Hita means what is good for us, what is beneficial for us. So, why is Dharma called beneficial? Swami Vidyaranya says, it is called beneficial or Hita because it is means to attain our desired fruits. So Dharma is the means to attain our desired fruits. So what is it we all desire? At the end of the day, all of us want to be happy and none of us want to be sad. So we may give it many names. I want a big house. I want a big family. I want this much bank balance. All these things you may express in multiple ways. But at the heart of all of that is simply this, that we all want happiness and none of us want dukkha. We all want sukha, we don't want dukkha, right? So Swami Vidyaranya says, Dharma is hitam, is good for us, is when that which is beneficial to us because it is a means to attain our desired fruits. And what are these fruits? He defines them, he bifurcates these fruits into two buckets. One is aihika, this worldly. The other is amushmika, the other worldly. And he says this worldly is, of course, the arthakama, material prosperity and sensory pleasures. The amushmika goals or the amushmika fruits, Swami Vidyaranya, he bifurcates that further into abhyudaya and nishrayasa. So he does it a little bit differently than what I explained in the previous slide. But ultimately, it is the same. So amushmika or the otherworldly desires are abhyudaya, wherein abhyudaya means attainment of sukha again and swarga. Sukha even in the next life. And swarga itself is understood as a loka which is where one can experience unadulterated, unfiltered sukha. That is abhyudaya, sukha, swarga, and nishrayasa, as I mentioned, is moksha, supreme knowledge resulting in liberation. That is atma-jnana leading to moksha. And he then adds that dharma is the direct means to the attainment of abhyudaya, whereas dharma is the indirectly leads to the moksha. How does it indirectly leads to moksha? Dharma makes an individual attain fitness or attain all the qualities needed to attain self-knowledge, Atma-jnana or Tattva-jnana, Brahma-jnana. And through the attainment of Brahma-jnana, one becomes free. So the only way one can attain moksha is through Brahma-jnana. But Dharma facilitates an individual to attain that Brahma-jnana through creating Chitta Shuddhi. So our minds are afflicted with all this kama, krodha, lobha, moha, that is anger, jealousy, attachment, lust, and such things. When we perform dharma, slowly all these arishad vargas, all the vasanas, loosens the grip, and one attains the purification of the mind. Through such purification of the mind, then the person becomes eligible to pursue Atma-jnana and attain Atma-jnana. Right? It is in this way that dharma, by facilitating an individual to pursue and acquire self-knowledge, attain self-knowledge, and therefore attain moksha. In the indirect way, dharma also leads to moksha. But dharma leads to this sukha. Dharma leads to this attainment of arthakama in this world, as well as the sukha and swarga in a more direct manner. Why is this so? Because dharma is basically a reference to human action itself. Dharma is basically defining our human action. It is indicating that a certain bucket of actions can give you these results. That is sukha, swarga, and chitta shuddhi leading to moksha. So it is a designation for a particular set of actions. So dharma is the means, therefore dharma is the means. When you perform these dharmika, what actions are the actions which are designated as dharma, this will lead to abhyudaya and nishreyasa. It will lead to sukha, swarga, chitta shuddhi, moksha. Therefore, dharma is hita, most beneficial. Because as I said, all of us want sukha, none of us want dukkha. And one of the definitions of even moksha is as a state which is full of sukha, full of ananda, without even a trace of dukkha. Sri Madhusudana Saraswati gives this definition. There are others also who have given this definition. We find this idea that I just mentioned very explicitly mentioned in Manusmriti. Dharma as a means to attain happiness, sukha, that is heaven, swarga, and purification of the mind, chitta shuddhi. It is indicated in Manusmriti also, wherein it says, Karmanam cha vivekartham dharma adharma vyavechayat. Karmanam cha vivekartham. For the due discrimination of actions. Here discrimination means distinction. To the discrimination is word used to translate the viveka. Viveka means distinguishing one entity by another entity. Distinguishing one phenomenon by another phenomenon. Just like we say separating the milk from water, or the wheat from chaff, right? So that is what vivekam is. So to differentiate two buckets of actions, two kinds of actions, or to create such discrimination among actions, Bhagavan himself created these two categories of dharma and adharma. That is, dharma refers to one bucket of actions, adharma refers to another bucket of actions. And what is the defining criteria of this dharma and adharma buckets of actions? The characteristics or the principle on the basis of which this bifurcation have been done is based on what kind of phala, what kind of fruits this action will give the performer. So when I perform this action, what kind of result will come from that performance is the criteria on which two buckets of actions have been created. So that is what the verse is saying. And Bhagavan connected all the people with such pairs of opposite results, such as Sukha Dukkha Adibihi Prajaha. Sukha Dukkha Adi. It says Adi means etc. Pairs of opposites such as Sukha and Dukkha, happiness and sorrow. by extension, it will include others such as Swarga, Naraka, etc. The commentators have clarified this as well. So, simply put, here there is a very explicitly statement that designation of dharma and adharma in the context of individuals is essentially a designation of the actions, human actions. It could be the manasa, vacha, or kaya, bodily or through the mind or through the speech, but it is a designation of these actions. And the kind of result one gets as a result of performing a particular action is what determines the designation. So that means today we have a tendency to use the term dharma in a very loose manner, in a very superficial manner. Anything will say, oh, this is also dharma, oh, that is also dharma. So I was reading some people speak about how in the West there is feminism. We need to bring about dharmic feminism. You see, we think that just because we add a word dharma, we can convert anything and everything into dharmic. It is not so. Dharma speaks about Stri Dharma. It does not speak about feminism. Because there are fundamental differences in what Sri Dharma is, what feminism is. Just putting the name Dharma in a loosely or superficial manner will not make something Dharma. The very term Dharma, if we have to use it, then we have to be very careful. Because Dharma is a Shastriya concept, that is a Shastriya terminology. It has been given to us through the Shastras, through the Vedas, through the Smritis, Ityasa. So it has a certain technical meaning that we have been discussing in this session. So if we have to designate an action as dharmic or as a dharma, then it implies that the said action leads to sukha, happiness, it leads to swarga, heaven, and it should also lead to chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind, thereby eventually facilitating one's path towards moksha. The opposite is adharma, which an action which leads to dukkha, sorrow, naraka, again hell in English, but it is not the Christian notion of hell, but our notion, wherein it simply means a loka wherein you get the phala for your bad actions. And chitta bhranti, more confusion, more delusion, more attachment to the world. That is the result of adharma. I hope you're appreciating this, that the very phrase dharma, the very phrase adharma, they have specific meaning, specific connotation, and we have to be very careful while using this term. Even when you're using it in a implied sense, not in a more technical sense, but in a larger sense of a vision, dharmic drishti, that is a legitimate use as long as we keep the exact definition, the exact anchorage in sukha, swarga, chitta shuddhi, etc. in the background, in mind, then such a implied secondary definitions, so to speak, are not problematic as long as the vision is properly anchored, right? Now, there is one more aspect of this definition of dharma, and this is about how do we know what is dharma, right? Because it is not enough to say dharma leads to well-being. It is not enough to say that dharma is hita, it gives sukha, it leads to swarga, etc. How do we know what actions leads to sukha, what actions leads to dukkha? Because the actions themselves do not tell us, oh, look, if you perform me, I will help you this way. The actions are jada, right? They can't speak to us. can we all decide based on ourselves, our mind, our intellect, using that this action is good for us, this action leads to heaven and all? See, in our day-to-day life, we are the ones who take decisions, right? We are the ones who make choices. So there is definitely that element. It is not a denial of free will, it is denial of use of the intellect to make their choice, right? That's definitely true. In fact, among the valid sources of dharma, there is also one source called atmatushti. So our action should be such that it should satisfy our inner conviction, inner conscience. However, this atmatushti, inner conviction, it cannot act on its own, especially because our mind is afflicted by kama, krodha, lobha, moha, etc. Therefore, we do not have a direct realization, direct perception, a yogic perception of what dharma is, what is not dharma. Because we do not have a direct perception, because from our eyes, nose, ears and all, we cannot directly see what is dharma, right? What action is dharma. Especially because when we think about swarga, chitta shuddhi, etc., they are not empirical. We cannot perceive them by our five senses directly, right? We can the heaven or swarga is something that comes after the death of this body, so we cannot directly see it. Even chitta shuddhi is a psychological phenomenon. We cannot directly perceive it. We may, to some extent, examine ourselves and see if by some means, sadhana, etc., our anger has reduced or not. But that is also through inference. That is also a kind of a not a direct knowledge. We may perceive that our anger is reducing, but we cannot directly say that this action leads to this particular result beyond a limited scope. We can say, okay, I know that if I study for exam, I will pass it, because in the Laukika, we have seen this. You study and you pass. But we are speaking here about non-empirical things like sukha, like swarga, punya, chitta shuddhi leading to moksha. See, all of these are non-empirical. Therefore, how then do we know what is dharma? In the Jaimini Mimamsa Sutra, it says, Chodana lakshano artho dharmaha. Dharma is that which is indicated by Chodana Vakyas. Chodana Vakya means Veda Vakyas. The Vidhi Vakyas in the Veda, the Vidhi Nisheda Vakyas, that is the injunctions and prohibitions that are mentioned in the Veda, they indicate what is Dharma. So, for example, the most well-known example is in the Vedas, there is a statement, Swarga kamo yajeta. If you desire heaven, Swarga, then you have to perform a yajna. And it gives details of what yajnas at different places. We don't need to go there. But the point is, the Veda is revealing to us through this Chodana Vakya, through this stipulation, through this injunction, that if you want to attain heaven, then you have to perform this yajna, this sacrifice, this yajna. And this is a knowledge we cannot gain from any other source. When I say any other source, I mean any other pramana such as pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, anupalabdhi, etc. Pratyaksha means direct perception and all these things. It cannot be gained. We will see a little bit more of this in the tomorrow or day after tomorrow's session. A similar idea is given in Bhagavan Krishna also. In Bhagavad Gita, he says, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karyam Akaryam Vyavastitau. The Shastras are the means to understand what actions, Karyam, what actions to be performed akaryam, what actions to not be performed. Gnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum arhasi. Kartum miha arhasi. Therefore, knowing these, the Shastra Vidhis, the injunctions as declared in the Shastras, one should perform actions in the world. See, this is very clear from Bhagavad Gita and from the Jaimini Sutra, that what kind of actions we need to perform and what kind of actions we need to avoid. That is, what is Dharma, what is Adharma. We know this from Shastras. Which are these Shastras? The primarily Vedas, but there are of course other Shastras also. For example, in Manusmriti says, Shutistu Vedo Vigneyo Dharma Shastram Tu Vaismritihi. The Veda is the should be known as the Shruti, and the Dharma Shastra as the Smriti. These two should not be criticized because Dharma is revealed from these two sources. Therefore, the Shruti, the Veda, and the Smriti, they are both on a equivalent position as the pramanas that reveal Dharma. Similarly, the other texts such as Purana, Nyaya, Puranas, etc., Itihasa Puranas are also sources of Dharma. Nyaya, Mimamsa, etc. are needed to analyze these texts and understand Dharma. Right? So, how do we know what actions are Dharma, what actions are Adharma? When I say what actions are Dharma, always keep in mind, it means what actions lead us to Sukha, Swarga, Chitta Shuddhi, Moksha, and what actions leads to the opposite, that is Dukkha, Naraka, and Chitta Bhranti, and more Samsara Bandhana. These we know from the Veda, Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, such texts, specifically from Veda and Smriti. So in short, the Dharma can be known only through Shabda Pramana and not by other sources such as perception, inference, etc. And this is so because, as I already mentioned, Dharma, Adharma refers to karma, karma phala relationship, action and the fruit of action. Now, there is another aspect to it. This is just an elaboration of what we already saw. Jaimini says that Dharma is revealed by the injunctive statements, Chodana, Vakyas of the Veda. What does this mean? This means that Dharma is revealed in the form of injunctions and prohibitions. So now in the Vedas, there are different types of Vakya. When I say Veda, it includes not just the Samhita portions, the Mantra Samhitas, but also the Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad, all of them. So there are different kind of Vakyas there, different kinds of sentences. There is Vidhi Vakya, which is a injunction. It is a statement that induces one to act. That is the Swarga Kama Yajeta is an example of Vidhi Vakya. Then there is Nisheda or prohibitory statements, which is opposite of injunction. It is a negative precept. That is, don't do this, or doing this will give you negative result, right? Don't commit violence on others. It's just an example of Pratisheda. Then there are Arthavada statements, Arthavada passages, which are whose purpose is, commendatory or depreciatory text, from which the Vidhi or Nisheda can be inferred. There are certain Namadeya, which are names for certain yagyas, and there are mantras to be used during rituals and which invoke the devatas. So the Dharma portion is indicated primarily through Vidhi and Nisheda Vakyas, and secondarily through Arthavada Vakyas, because Arthavada Vakyas, from there we can infer the Vidhi or Nisheda Vakyas. So dharma is that which is revealed in the form of vidhi and nisheda, injunctions and prohibitions. A corollary to this is, a continuation of this is, dharma is adherence to vidhi and avoidance of nisheda. And adharma is opposite, avoidance of dharma and practice of nisheda. You see where this is going? If we say, as we said, what is prescribed in the Vidivakya is dharma, this is stating it in a different way. What is prescribed in the Vidivakya is dharma, and what is prohibited in the Nisheda Vakya is adharma. So when you perform the action prescribed in the Vidivakya, it is dharma. And when you avoid performing what is prohibited in the Nisheda Vakya, is also dharma. But at the same time, non-performance of action indicated in the Vidivakya is also adharma. Right? Moving forward, we have few more slides, then I will take some questions. So the logically speaking, we have been discussing this dharma, adharma, these are designations for actions, and dharma leads to swarga, sukha, etc. The question arises, how does dharma give rise to sukha, swarga, chitta shuddhi? Or how does adharma give rise to dukkha, naraka, chitta? You see, we took the example, right, of the Shruti Vakya, which says, Swarga kamo yajeta. If you desire heaven, Swarga, you then perform yajna. But the performance of yajna happens here and now. You may perform 1 day yajna, 2 days yajna, or you may perform regular yajnas, whatever it is. The yajna is as an action, it becomes accomplished, it becomes completed within a few days' time. But it is not the result, say, swarga, etc. We don't perceive it immediately, especially swarga is something which comes by definition after the death of the body. So there is a time gap between action and the result of action. And in the case of swarga, naraka, punarjanma and all, the time gap is very huge. We don't know when, how they will come about. And they are non-empirical, beyond the grasp of our mind and the senses. So stated differently, how do we establish the cause and effect relationship between an action prescribed or prohibited in the Shastras and the purported result which arises from these performances? The Mimamsakas, the Mimamsa Darshanas, answered this with Apurva. They said the Apurva is the missing link, and they arrived at this Apurva through Arthavada, sorry, not Arthavadam, Arthapatti and other Pramanas. They explain this cause and effect relationship. Apurva is, what is Apurva? Kumarala Bhatta in Sloka Vartika, sorry, in Tantra Vartika, he gives a very, very wonderful definition. He says, the potential which was absent before the performance of an act and which is produced after the performance of that act, that potential or potency is known as Apurva. So now, see, if you are a student of science, you have heard of potential energy and kinetic energy, right? See, potential energy is basically energy in its potential format. Potentiality means, potency means it has the capability, but it is not yet manifest. It is in an unmanifest condition. What essentially Kumarila Bhatta is saying that every action generates a potency, an invisible potency, because of course it is not visible to the eyes. And this potential is called as apurva. And this was not present before the performance of the act. That is, it becomes, the potency itself is generated by the performance of that. And this potency is called as apurva. And it is this potency which is the missing link. It is this potency, this invisible potential result, which endures in time till such a time when the time for its manifestation as the actual result on the ground comes. So you can think of it as a seed. When you perform an action, the result of the action in its seed form, seed unmanifested form, an invisible form, is already generated. And it exists with the doer. And only when the time is right, only when proper time comes, only when the seed becomes mature enough, then it sprouts into the fruit. That fruit is the actual manifestation of the result on the ground. This potency is called as apurva in the case of actions prescribed by Vedas and Shastras. In the case of worldly actions, they are simply called as adrushta. Adrushta means that which is invisible. Without such potency, the performance and non-performance of any action would become same, right? If you are performing some action and if it is not giving rise to some immediate result, even if it is in the form of a potential result, then performance or non-performance is equal because there is nothing there, right? So Mimamsakas explained this invisible, this link, the missing link, that when you perform an action, it immediately generates the result in a potential form, as an invisible potency called apurva, which will, when the time comes, which will then sprout and give the phala, karma phala, as sukha, swarga, or dukkha, naraka, based on the kind of karma you have done. Therefore, based on the action you have done, based on the bucket of action you have done, there are also two buckets of this apurva. One is punya, the other is papa. We have all heard, or we are all familiar with the term punya papa, right? The technical definition would be punya refers to that invisible potency, a positive, beneficial potency generated from when one performs actions prescribed in the Vidivakyas of the Shastras. Right? That is, when one performs Dharma, then that dharmic actions, the performance of dharmic actions gives rise to the beneficial potency called punya. That is, punya is generated. When you perform a dharmic actions, the punya is generated, which we can translate as karmic merit in the form of potency. And this potency will endure in time, and eventually when the time is right, it will generate the result of sukha, swarga, chitta shuddhi, etc. The opposite is papa, which is the negative, undesirable potency, which is generated when one performs actions which are prohibited by the Shastras. Further, if when a particular action is mandated by the Shastra as obligatory, as Nitya Karma, as something that has to be done, and there is a non-performance of it, so there are two different schools here. Some consider that such non-performance also gives rise to some kind of dosha, which is also a karmic demerit. Simply put, the apurva of punya that is generated when you perform dharmika actions, that is generated when you perform actions as allowed in the Shastras, then it results in karma phala of swarga, sukha, chitta shuddhi, ultimately leading to moksha. The apurva of papa, on the other hand, leads to naraka, dukkha, chitta bhranti, etc. And apurva of papa is generated from the performance of adharma. Just a second. I'm not able to share. Yeah, okay. We will conclude with just a quick look here. In the 12th chapter of Manusmriti, this karma phala relationship is given in a very beautiful way. It speaks about how actions proceeding from the mind, speech, and the body, which are conductive to the good or bad results, and the conditions of the men could also be divided into high, low, and middling. So what actually it says is, based on whether our actions in the mind, speech, or body, they are good or bad, we will get the corresponding results also. So it takes the example of adharma. The three different categories of adharma, that is adharma through speech, adharma through mind, adharma through body. Say, coveting wealth of others, scheming in one's mind, what is desirable, adhering to wrong notions. These are three forms of adharma of the mind. Manasika adharma. Abusing someone, speaking falsehood, idle prattling, backbiting. See, all these are vachika adharma, verbal adharma. Practicing himsa, injuring others, taking by either force or by stealing or what does not belong to one, appropriating something to oneself that does not belong to us, performing adultery. See, all these are different kinds of kayika adharma, bodily adharma. Then Manusmriti says the auspicious and the inauspicious results resulting from the mental acts are experienced through the mind. Those that result from verbal acts are experienced through speech, and those that are performed through bodily acts are experienced through the body. So that means when you perform these kayika adharma, like killing somebody or injuring somebody or having a relationship with somebody's spouse, such as, or stealing something, then you will experience the result through the body only. And Manu says that, as an example, he says that in the next life, in the Punarjanma, you may be born as an inanimate object, as a tree or such object, wherein you cannot move, wherein your body form is restricted, its movement is restricted. And through such restriction, the Jivatma endures suffering, experiences suffering. Similarly, if you are performing adharma through your speech, by lying, by abusing, by gossiping and such things, you may be born as a bird or a beast which cannot speak. A lion can roar, but it does not have human speech. So there is a limitation to speech, and through such limitation, the Jivatma experiences dukkha. Or if you have performed adharma through the mind by thinking bad about others, by wishing bad for others, then you may be born in such life conditions. Even if you are born as a human in your next life, you will be born in such conditions wherein you will experience intense mental suffering. Nothing will go right to you in your life. You will not have mental peace. Mental suffering will be there. Therefore, Manusmriti says a triple control, Tridanda, is very, very important. What are these triple control? Control over the speech, control over the mind, and control over the body. When the heart is fixed, firmly fixed in such control, then Manusmriti says one is able to subdue one's desire and anger, therefore thereby attain success. Here success means travel on the path towards moksha. And it says that the sattva, rajas, tamas, all this come into play, and it gives a very detailed illustration and delineation of all that, which is not needed for us now, because these actions are also, sattvika action, tamasika actions, rajasika actions, and they have their own results. So when we perform sattvika actions, it can take one to the state of the devatas. One can attain devaloka, deva samipya, or deva sarupya also. So what are these sattvic actions? Actions such as worship of the devatas, meditation upon the devatas, dhyana, dharana, etc. The rajasya, when one is endowed with rajas and performs rajasika action, there is a mixture of good and bad, mixture of dharma, adharma. Then one will eventually again be born as a man, born in this world itself. And if we are characterized by tamas, and if we are always performing adharmic actions, as I mentioned, one may be born as animals and plants and trees and experience suffering. So this is how the Manusmriti reveals the karma phala relationship. So we can understand from this why it is important to anchor ourselves in a dharmika life, to anchor ourselves to the teachings of our Shastras, the Dharma Shastras. In short, Dharma is, if you have to understand what is the definition of Dharma, what is Dharma in a foundational sense, then it is a reference to the karma or actions. It is a designation of it. It's a designation of a particular kind of actions. What kind of actions? Actions which uphold and sustain us, sustain all beings. It is those actions which are most beneficial to us because it leads to overall well-being, abhyudaya nishreyasa. It is those actions which are means to attaining sukha, happiness, heaven, swarga, chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind, eventually leading to moksha. Those actions which are revealed by Shruti, Smriti and other Shastras in the form of Vidhi and Nisheda. Dharma constitutes adherence to Vidhi and avoidance of Nisheda. So in short, Dharma facilitates one to attain Sukha, Swarga, etc. The performance of Dharma facilitates one to attain Sukha, Swarga, etc. by the generation of Apurva called Punya, karmic merit. The opposite of Dharma is Adharma. Every other definition, meaning and interpretation of Dharma, be it is as ethics, morality, law, governance or order, they must be anchored in this foundational understanding of Dharma and of Shastras. Without this foundational understanding, any usage of the term Dharma will be incorrect, will be without any basis. With this, I conclude today's presentation. I think the presentations will be shared with you. But even otherwise, if you want a more detailed understanding of these definitional, foundational aspects, I suggest you to please refer to my new book. You can see the cover behind me in the virtual screen. It is called as Chatushloki Manusmriti. It's a commentary on the opening 4 verses of Manusmriti, which deals with these fundamental questions, such as what is Dharma, what is the purpose of Dharma Shastra, what is the end result of performing Dharma, etc. I've just shared the link to my book in the chat box. I hope everybody can see the link. If there are any questions, we can take some questions for 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sridhar J. Thank you very much. And we'll open up for the questions, and people can raise their hands and put the questions. And in the meanwhile, there are 2 questions in the chat box. Just a minute. Is the world ruled by the strict laws of actions or karuna of God?
See, the question assumes that there is a contradiction between the two, but it is not so. Bhagavan, as I mentioned, we have a Upanishadic statement, Yato va bhutani jayante, right? It is Bhagavan who is the creator of the universe, who sustains the universe, and who does the laya of the universe. The question is, how does Bhagavan sustain the universe, right? He sustains it through Dharma, through these laws of the universe, if you have to use the English term. As from the Upanishads itself, we know there is a statement that it is by the fear of Brahman that the wind blows, the fire burns, the sun shines, and such statements. So what they show is simply this, that it is through these universal cosmic laws that Bhagavan sustains the universe. So there is karuna definitely, because it is because of this karuna itself that Bhagavan grants us means to become free of the fetters, free of the chains of the samsara. Bhagavan does the anugraha, Bhagavan does the srishti, sthiti and laya, but he also does anugraha. He also gives us both vara and raksha. In any iconography of any of the forms of devatas, you see both the vara mudra and raksha mudra, both. He protects us, he blesses us. How does he bless them? He blesses us with right thoughts to perform right actions. Who has revealed all this knowledge about what is dharma, what is adharma, what actions to avoid, what actions to perform? It is Bhagavan himself. The Veda is considered as the Shwasa, the very breath of Bhagavan, very breath of Brahma. Right? So these are not contradictory, that there is Bhagavan's karuna, yes, but Bhagavan also does not act like a corporate boss who favors those who do his praise and who is not favorable to those who do not do the praise. Bhagavan is not like that. Bhagavan gives the results. The Vedanta says Ishvara is karma phaladata. We spoke about this apurva, etc., right? But this karma phala, it does not happen in vacuum on its own. It is Ishvara, the conscious principle, who facilitates this whole phenomenon. He is the karma phaladata. He is the one who dispenses the fruits based on the kind of karma we have done. So Ishvara is karunamai, but Ishvara is also impartial. And it is he who has created this whole system of karma phala. for the functioning of this universe. Entire universe. It is how the universe functions. Even you see in our Puranas of the stories such as even somebody such as Indra was given shapa by a rishi, and he had to undergo suffering because of that shapa. When Indra killed Vritra, when Indra killed Vishwarupa, etc., he incurred Brahmahatya Papa. So even Indra, etc., had to suffer this karma phala, right? So the whole setup of karma phala is created by Ishvara himself to sustain the universe. Hope this clarifies. Are there any more questions?
There are questions after the Pradhana we'll take up.
Okay.
Will you be available?
I can take up another 10 minutes. I can take some questions.
Okay, we'll just finish the Pradhana and take up the questions. Babu Garu? Sridhar Patarji, can you do the Pradhana, please?
ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सदनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं सत्यं वद धर्मं चर स्वाध्यायान् मा प्रमदः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ ॐ सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु स्वस्ति.
Thank you, Sridhar Patarji. Thank you very much for the Pradhana. Now we raise for the national anthem, please. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय जय. Okay, now we resume the question and answer session. Yeah, just a minute. Okay. It is said that in Krita Yuga, Dharma was in 4 legs, but subsequently now in Kali Yuga, it is only on 1 leg. Please explain, sir.
Yeah, in Bhagavata and other places we see that just like Bhumi is represented as cow, Dharma takes the form of a bull. And this bull of Dharma has 4 legs, and each leg stands for one principle of Dharma. The 4 legs stand for tapas, shaucha, daya, and satya. So tapas refers to austerity, all forms of austere processes, the different vratas, homas, tapasyas, meditation, everything comes there. Then we have shaucha, internal and external cleanliness. And there are different varieties of shaucha also. And then we have daya, compassion. And finally, satya. So the Puranas say that with each passing yuga, because of increased adharma or increased influence of our vasanas, of the Arishad Vargas, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, etc., and reduced, when the reduced capability of human capacity itself, as the dharma changes, the yuga changes, the bull of dharma loses one of its leg. And in Kali Yuga, it stands only on one leg of Satya. So this is what the Puranas, etc. say. The idea is simply this, that these tapasya, shaucha, indriya nigraha, daya, they are the 4 foundation of a dharmic life. And different texts gives different principles as these foundational aspects. Say in Manusmriti, we have ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, shaucham, indriya nigraham. So these are given as 5 principles of dharma: ahimsa, satya, asteya, shaucha, indriya nigraha. In another place, Manusmriti gives dasha lakshana, 10 characteristics of dharma. As far as the yuga aspect is, we are already seeing that in Kali Yuga, we cannot practice dharma in its entirety. We cannot practice dharma 100% as it is mentioned in the Shastras. It is not possible because our own capacity has reduced, our mental capacity has reduced, our physical capacity has reduced. The environment we are living in is not conductive. It is not conducive to practice of dharma at all. There is adharma everywhere. If you want to buy a house or a real estate, you have to give money in white and black. Otherwise, you cannot buy it. So, if you want to ride a vehicle, use the AC at home, it invariably leads to some form of pollution. So there is no clear white and black. There is only choices, the shades of gray today in Kali Yuga. That is nature of Kali Yuga. That is why it says that dharma stands on only one leg in Kali Yuga. And the Puranas, etc., indicate Satya as that leg. Because I think the idea is that it is still possible to speak truth, howsoever difficult it is in this yuga. There are innumerable examples of great saints who took a vow that I will only speak truth and who adhered to that vow throughout their life. On the other hand, tapasya, we cannot practice fully. There will be, we read stories about how rishis practice tapasya for millions of years. We don't have that lifetime, that long life now. And even our practice of tapasya is always limited by our own limitations. We cannot practice it perfectly. Likewise, we cannot practice shaucha also perfectly. There is great ashaucha in all our actions, in all our speech, in our thought. There is lot of dosha. So we cannot practice shaucham also fully, 100%. Similarly, daya also, I mentioned example of AC, etc., right? Our actions are mixed. We have to cultivate Daya in life, but we may not be able to cultivate Daya 100%. Even the Jainas, etc., who practice Ahimsa as a Mahavrata, even invariably, intentionally or unintentionally, some sort of Ahimsa happens even from them, right? So therefore, in Kali Yuga, Satya is one element. If we truly want, then we can actually practice it. It will be very difficult. The nature of society is such that even Satya is difficult, but at least it is possible to perform fully. So this is my understanding of the Puranic story, that Dharma stands on only one leg in Kali Yuga. Any more questions?
There are just a minute. There is one question. What are prayas, shreyas? What are abhyudaya, divinity or humanity? If it is too long, then you can take it up tomorrow.
I'll just give a one-line answer. Abhyudaya we already discussed in the session. You can watch the video. Prayas and Shreyas is simply that Shreyas is the path that takes you to moksha. Prayas is pursuit of worldly desires. That is to put it in a very simple language. Yeah, so I think we can conclude now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sridharji. One only small request is that in the presentation, if you see the video recording, you can see that in the left-hand corner down below, there is some blockage. I don't see it is happening. But if you
There
can
is
see-
no problem with the PPT, PowerPoint that
Okay.
I'm using.
Okay, no
So,
problem.
yeah.
Okay, Dhanyavad. Thank you very much, Sridharji. Nice
Thank you
to
very much.
hear. And yes, you have very well explained that why is it on one pada in this year, this yuga. Very nicely explained. Hope we'll again regain all the three padas. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I close.